Tomorrow is a paradise. It's a promised land. The place where only good things can happen. A place where productivity and success and contentment, they all live there. The only place better than tomorrow? Next week. Next month. Or the mother of them all, someday. Someday. A mythical, undisclosed date in the future, nestled deep inside my imagination with no limitations and no problems. The someday in my mind definitely doesn't have any limitations. The lack of limitations of someday often sit in stark contrast to today, the challenging reality that I currently find myself in. The reality where I am a solopreneur, working by myself as a coach, trying to and wanting to give 100% of my time and attention to all of my athletes. The reality where I'm a multi-sport endurance athlete, which by definition requires me to split my time and attention between at least 3 different sports and have the ability to do all of them for many hours at a time. The reality that I'm still a husband, a son, a dog owner, an expat, living in a country that I call home but isn't my own. See, what appeals to me about someday is someday, none of those elements are competing with each other. And because none of them are competing with each other, I can give each one of them my undivided time and attention. And I know from experience that when I give something my undivided time and attention, I can be pretty damn good at it. So in this mythical land, this paradise of someday, I can do everything. And I'm pretty damn good at it. But today is not that day. Although 3 weeks ago, when I was planning out all the things I wanted to do in January, my brain somehow thought today might be someday. Hey guys, my name is Rory. I'm a full-time endurance triathlon and swimming coach. And through these videos, my writings, and my podcasts, I am hoping to explore ideas, strategies, and tools that I think can help optimize and grow my business, help me be a better athlete, and improve my abilities as a coach and find deeper meaning and purpose in life. And this week, as I stare down the barrel of the closing of the first chapter of the year, the end of January, and look at the list of things that I had laid out for myself to do and the number of things that I haven't yet got done, it kind of got me thinking, how many people out there are able to fit in everything? And as I've thought about that and written about that this week, the only answer I can come up with is no one, not a single person. And I can say that with a fair amount of confidence, one, because I've given it a bit of thought, but two, also because I think the question is rigged in a way. You see, as a human being, living in the hyperlinked, fast-paced 21st century, there are simply too many options, too many opportunities, too many paths, too many choices, too many distractions for one person to be able to do everything that we are curious about. And I think we can all understand that to a degree. But where you, and when I say you, I really mean I, start to get uncomfortable in accepting that there are actually too many opportunities, too many options, too many paths, and too many choices for us to be able to do everything that's actually important, necessary, or even critical in any given day, week, or month. The last 36 years of my life has pretty much proved that is the case for me personally. There's never enough hours in a day, a week, or a month to get things done. And over 6,000 hours spent coaching one-on-one with people, talking with them, hundreds of clients that I've worked with over the last 10 years would pretty much indicate that this is the case for most people. I've not met, worked, or coached anyone who's been able to tick every box every time and keep that streak alive day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. As Oliver Burkeman put it, and I'm going to have to read this, the day will never arrive when you finally have everything under control, when the flood of emails are being contained, when your to-do list has stopped getting longer, when you're meeting all the obligations at work and in your home life, when no one is angry with you for missing a deadline or dropping a ball. Let's start by admitting defeat. None of this is ever going to happen. And that's a little bit of a challenge to my once perfectionist nature. I'm learning to accept that be the case now. But does that mean that no one is living a fulfilling life? If we can't get everything done, are we all running around unhappy in pursuit of the unattainable? And the answer to that is no, not at all. Because I have met and have worked with many people over the years who have been very happy and content despite not having done it all. And so I have this question, how is that possible? How can we fall short of the things that we could potentially do, and yet still be perfectly content with what we have done. And I think there are a few ideas and principles that we can look to for answers to that, or at least guide us in the right direction. And I've written over 3,000 words on that over the last couple of days, but there's two things that I keep coming back to, and I think they are the right place to start. So in the interest of keeping this video on the shorter side, I'm going to focus on just two today. The first is to prioritize what is important to you. See, we all have different allocations of what's important to us and how we pursue and spend our time each week. But my experience is that not many people, even the anal A-type personalities, have gone through and intentionally thought about a list that prioritizes their hierarchy of importance as it fits with their goals and their values. And so because we haven't got a clearly defined set of important things to do every week, we end up with a ton of stuff on our plate, and it's all competing for the limited time that we have. And when we drop a ball, we will say, I didn't manage my time properly, or I have lack of discipline to execute whatever I needed to do, which to a degree, both are true, but I would argue that instead of poor time management, it's more a lack of prioritization on what's important, and a lack of discipline to execute is often just exhaustion from too much stress and too much stuff on our plate. So I think a better solution would be to lay out a clear hierarchy of what's important to us. And that'll allow us to gain clarity and structure on how we approach each day or each week with intention. The hierarchy of priorities should allow us to focus our energy and attention on the things that are most important to us personally. And with that focused attention, we should be empowered to achieve or tick off our goals or the to-do list in a much shorter period of time. It should give us clarity on the structure of how we allocate our time as we go through a day, a week, or a month. And it should allow us to help manage the expectation of the people that depend on us and in our lives in a way that is proactive and not reactive. And I think that is a pretty big part of how we go about being content and happy, at least it is for me. But then finally, that specifically in the context of happiness and contentment, with a hierarchy of priorities, we can give ourselves grace and understanding when we don't have time to tick off something that is much lower on the priority list. So as I get to the end of January, I can look at the priorities that I had laid out, or the tasks that I've laid out. And if I haven't completed some of the ones that are lower down on the priority list, but have done and taken care of the ones that are higher up, there is grace and understanding as to why some of them weren't completed. And I don't look at that list like it's a failure. Now, the challenging part of that is it's not as easy as it sounds, because it takes an honest self-audit, self-awareness to know exactly what your priorities are and actually how to create boundaries around those priorities. You're going to have to make choices, hard choices, about what matters most to you and where you spend your time. You're going to have to make trade-offs. You're going to have hard conversations and accept the responsibility for your decisions, because you simply can't do everything at the same time. Time is a zero-sum game, which by definition means that in investing your time in one thing, there is a trade-off or a sacrifice to doing something else. Now, you could make an argument for multitasking and efficiency, but at the end of the day, you cannot be in two places at one time, which means by definition of making something a priority, you are choosing to do that over something else. And that's not an easy thing to do. My wife Carla and I met when we were 18 and 19, and we didn't actually get married until 8 years later. And that wasn't because I didn't want to marry her. That was because my number one boundary at the time was swimming. I knew that, and I drew a clear boundary around the priority. I made the choice, and that took a lot of hard conversations, and I'm very grateful that she was willing to stick around and I didn't have to deal with the potential consequences of my choices. But to me, that was what prioritization look like in action. That is not an easy thing to do, but I think that is the first step to contentment as we work through trying to complete everything on our priority list. And then the second that I keep coming back to is surprisingly simple and yet one of the most difficult things that I think I'll ever have to try and do. And it's best told through a little story. So once there was a party being thrown by a billionaire on Shelter Island, and Kurt Vonnegut, the American author, turns to his friend Joseph Heller, who were in attendance, and tells him that the host, a hedge fund manager, had made more money in a single day than Heller had earned from his widely popular novel Catch-22 over its entire history. "How does that make you feel?" Vonnegut said. Heller responds, "Fine. I have something he will never have. Enough." After prioritizing the what with my time, that simple word enough has helped me draw a boundary around how much. Because I think once we have prioritized what is most important to us, the biggest robber, the biggest takeaway of joy and contentment in our lives comes through this incessant pursuit of more, bigger, better, stronger, shinier, faster. And the recognition that that is not the answer, and that being able to draw some boundary, some sort of boundary around what is enough is a good place to start with moving towards contentment. Working with the word enough is the ability to express gratitude for what you have instead of fixating on what you don't. It's the understanding that having some time to be able to do the lists, the things on your list, and having a lot of things on your list is actually a very good place to be. It signifies that you have options. It signifies that you have curiosity. It signifies that you have aspirations. And so it's not a bad thing, but having the understanding that having some time, even if you don't have all the time to do all of those things, having some time alive as a human being is better than having none at all. It's accepting that more, or the desire for more, whether you cross those things off the list or not, is not the path to happiness, but is actually a pathway to discontentment. And if I'm honest with you, it's actually interesting to say and to write that, because if you had told me that a few years ago, not if I had told you that, but if you had told me that a few years ago, I would have told you that I disagree. I would have said, you're settling. By saying that you're settling, you're not motivated enough, you're not driven to improve, that no one has ever done anything of any sort of significance simply by settling for what they have without the drive for more. And I still think that there is validity in that idea. But I'm now starting to see that accepting that where I am currently and the act of being grateful for what I have does not automatically close the door on what I could do in the future. But then moving into the future from a place of accepting makes that journey into the future far more enjoyable and far more of an exciting prospect and experience. And so as I began the week with an element of frustration over having an extended list of things on my to-do list for January that still weren't ticked off, because when I sat down to write this list back in December, someday was today, and today actually has a lot more competing tasks and a lot more competing responsibilities than I anticipated when I wrote this list originally. So as I started this week with frustration over not having completed a number of items on my to-do list for the month of January, I have slowly seen my mindset shift through this week to one of being grateful and having gratitude over what I have completed, over prioritizing the things that I felt were most important for the month of January. And even though I haven't completed some of the things lower down on the list, I am grateful for the position that I am ending the month in, having completed what I have ended up completing. And that is a good place to be. That helps me feel a lot better, and it increases the motivation as we head into February, into the next month. I hope that there is something here that you have taken away from this video. I am now putting these videos up on Spotify and on Apple iTunes, so if you would prefer to listen to them in audio format while you're training or doing something else instead of watching them, that is another option for you. And if you enjoy one of those, the video, the podcasts, or any format of this, it would be greatly appreciated if you would share it with somebody that you would think it would resonate with or would get something out of it. Appreciate you guys for watching and listening and reading along. Have a great week. See you next week.